Hey y'all, welcome to the filling station. It has been an interesting day in the market, right? Let me go ahead and give my disclaimer, y'all. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth, and the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, y'all, let's get started. So we are looking at Tesla. So I wanted to point out, this is the 30-minute chart, right? Tesla consolidated, or what I like to say, the gathering spot, right? In this area, we marked that pre-market in the mornings, and Tesla consolidated here or traded in this range. As soon as, the market opened, Tesla ran up. It kind of got, I had a inside week target for Tesla. We broke through that inside week trigger, which was that 178.18. So the target was 182.87 when we got up in this area, and it looks like, the sellers were right there to take it right back to the downside. So this next candle, I was like, okay, are we going to break through this target and fill this gap to the upside? Because there is an upside gap, at the 184.48 to the 186.73. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, maybe Tesla is going to fill the gap today, right? We were above the 5 EMA. We broke out of the gathering spot. We reached the inside week target. However, we made that new high of 184.25, and it seemed like the sellers were there, and we struggled to get back to that area. Tesla gave us a double top between 10:30 and 11 right here, and we came right back down, making lower lows under the 5 EMA, right? Y'all, what's so interesting is for a while, Tesla sat right on top of this purple line right here. I'm going to make that a solid line so it can be so we can see it a little bit easier. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker so that we can see that. And I'm going to do the bottom the same way because Tesla came back to that area and it stayed there for a long time. But when it broke out of that area, I kind of had an idea that it gave me okay, Tesla's probably going to have a strong move up or a strong move down. And the way that it was moving, it looked like it was going to be to the downside, right? So looking at Tesla, it came down and tested this area about 1 o'clock. So it stayed here from 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. It did not break out of this gathering spot until around 3, a little after 3, but it's right there on that line. And we marked that this morning. That's why it's so important that we mark what I like to say, the gathering spots or your consolidation area, because it helps you throughout the day to, with your support and your resistance. And Tesla came back. What's interesting, let me say that before I go to the 5-minute chart, because you can see it a little bit clearer here on this 30-minute chart. Tesla came right back to the gathering spot. And y'all, I say things and do things to make it interesting and make it fun, because looking at charts all day can be really, really stressful or really boring. So yeah, you got to make learning fun. You got to make, trading has to be fun for me in order for me to enjoy it. Let me say that. So I say the gathering spot, even though it is a consolidation area, right? So Tesla came back to this area, same area that we marked this morning. We ended up in the same area, right? And we can go ahead and see this before we go to the 5-minute chart. Tesla has a gap to the downside to fill at the 177.38. We gapped up this morning, creating a gap that will need to be filled to the downside, right? So 177.38 to 175.24 is a gap that will need to be filled. Right now, Tesla is above the 5 EMA. However, on the daily chart, we closed, that is the 4-hour. On the daily chart, it looks like we closed right there at 177.67, and at the time that candle, it was at 178.06, around that area. So right now looks like it's at the 177.95 range area. Yeah, 177.95. So Tesla is at an area of support. We can bounce off of that, or now that is resistance, and especially just wait. Right now, this candle right here is a reversal candle, so we just have to be careful and see what the markets are going to give us tomorrow and not rush into those trades. Again, I say that often, so we're going to go to that 5-minute chart because I wanted to show you how Tesla looked throughout the day. This is our gathering spot. We labeled that earlier, and look, Tesla again is right back at that area, but look at how it traded. If you trade the 5-minute, and that's what I normally trade, trading as soon as the market opened, that would have been the best. I always do that. When the market opened, that would have been a really, really good move. MACD gave us a signal here. We had this right here would have been a place that I needed to watch and say, okay, if I'm going to enter Tesla, I'm going to enter because it broke out of the gathering spot, and I'm going to trade it to the upside until it gives me a signal like this that I need to be careful to get out, right? This area here. And if you could see, our MACD crossed back to the downside, so that would have been a place for me to get out to the, get out of that trade. One of the things that we have to be mindful of is if you're in profit, and sometimes we stay in the positions too long. I know I used to do that, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch it and keep watching it. Well, sometimes they move really, really quick. So if you're in decent profit, I always say be grateful and not greedy. Well, that's my, how for me, I have to tell myself that throughout the day. Okay, you have to be grateful and not be greedy. So if I was in this trade and I made it to this point here, that's a nice profit, then let me go ahead and get out and make sure that I lock in and secure some of that profit, because eventually if you stay in there too long, you're going to give the majority of that, if not all of that, back. So that's something to think about, right? So the SPY is another one that I traded at the end of the day. I had been waiting on this trade majority of the day, because when I looked at it, I was like, SPY is really doing nothing today. And that's exactly what it did. It just moved sideways most of the day, right? So we marked the gathering spot this morning, which was around this area on the 30-minute chart. And we broke out of that before the market opened, only to consolidate. So we've really been going sideways most of the day. And this is what we see here on the 5-minute chart. I think I bought a position somewhere around this because I was like, okay, looks like SPY's been consolidating, and at some point it's either going to break to the upside or it's going to break to the downside. And this was the move that I was waiting on here, to the downside, and I'm grateful. I am so grateful at that. But if you're seeing a position like this right here, wait on be strategic, and like those sniper entries, right? Look for an indication that's going to give you a signal. Like this MACD here, it's separated. I remember those lines right there, you don't want to trade those, because that's a different place. That's the only way I can say it, right? So the separation of the MACD here, and we broke out of this area right here of consolidation, a gathering spot, right? And then we start making lower lows. We are under this area of support, so that would have been an entry somewhere around here. And that's exactly where the MACD separated and gave a confirmation. So when I enter the trades, I always wait on some other type of confirmation, and not just, I broke out of the gathering spot. Well, what is the MACD showing me? Or, do I have something else to help confirm, like lower lows? Or, do I have something else to show me that, yeah, that's to the right side and it's okay to do that? So SPY was interesting today. We went sideways only to break out of the gathering spot, and we went down. And SPY has some downside gaps to fill, a lot of downside gaps to fill. So I would definitely be careful with that. AMD was another one that had AMD had a nice move up today. So this is our gathering spot from this morning, or the consolidation area. We sold off in the beginning only to consolidate here, which, looking at the MACD, that's not an area that I would want to trade this part. So as soon as, we broke out, the MACD gave us a signal right here about 11:05. We could have entered this trade and just scalped it up to the top here. I wouldn't have wanted to be in this area right here, because I would have been grateful with the trade, with the profit from here to here. And if you, right there, the 5 and the 50 cross. So I would have definitely looked at the MACD, and the 5 and 50 cross would have been a confirmation that I was on the right side of the trade, and the entry would have been okay for me. So I would have watched it and gotten out probably right here, and that's just how I trade. You have to do what works best for you, right? So watching this, I was like, okay, it's not a lot of activity. Well, it is a lot of activity. Let me rephrase that. But it's not one that I would say I would want to be in. Let me say that. As soon as it broke out of this area right here, I would have probably scalped it to the downside from here to here. That would have been a scalp. And this consolidation area, I normally wouldn't have traded that. So I would have waited on this entry here. And that is, we broke out of a gathering spot. You can see that here. We made lower lows here. Our MACD gave us a signal here, right here. So we could have entered the trade, even though we had support here, we could have entered the trade and let it, as long as it's below the 5 EMA, we could have rode this all the way down till about here, right? So once it started going to this area and that MACD flattening, I probably would have gotten out, because one that I would have my thought going in was, I'm going to go in to scalp this. That means I'm going to go in and get whatever I can get out of it at that time, right? and I don't want to overstay my welcome. Again, I'm grateful, not greedy, right? So I would have waited, into the right position, rode this to the downside, and I would have gotten out as soon as that MACD. There's a little pivot area here that lets me know, okay, we need to start watching this. And right here it starts flattening. That I would have been out at that point. So AMD did something, interesting. You could have gotten in and made some decent money. What's interesting is at the end of the day, we had this nice little run up right here, or this nice candle. The low of the candle is 177.94. The high of the candle is 179.39. So I wonder what happened at this point to make that run up like that, even though it closed at 177.87. So AMD will be interesting to watch tomorrow. Let me say that. And NVDA is another one. This is a 5 minute. Let's see what the 30 minute look like. Right. So we marked this gathering spot this morning. It broke out of that area, sold off nicely. So if you got in once it broke out of this area, that would have been a nice trade. We do see the 5 and 50 crossing, so that's a good place to the downside. But this gathering spot here, the consolidation area, I'm not sure if I would have wanted to trade that. Let's go look at it. Based on what we're seeing now, looks like it's finding support on a 200 EMA. And the market is closed at 925.19 is where the support area is now. It did test 923.60, and that was about 4 o'clock, right at 4 o'clock. So it will be interesting again to watch NVIDIA tomorrow. But let's look at it on the on the 5 minute chart. 4 minute, I don't even know where that come from. Okay, so again, this is where, the gathering spot, the 963.75 was the high of the day. We hit that area, and I'm going to try, we hit that area, and we sold off. We came down consolidated. So by buying this off of rejection, meaning it got rejected at the ORB high, which that is the dotted green line here, that's what that means. It got rejected here, so I will be buying off of rejection, meaning I'm going to buy a put to the downside, and I'm going to enter, but I'm going to ride the 5 and see, the MACD is showing me it's not as far, separated as I would like to see, but I did buy it on rejection. So that, and it is separating as, it's not like this one. It's a little separated, and as it goes down, it begins to separate a little bit more. So that could have been a scalp to the downside, right? I don't like to see these areas, and as soon as you see how we went from under the 5 EMA to on top of the 5 EMA, I would not have been on the downside of this trade based on my candles being on the top of the 5 EMA, especially if I'm in profit. Let me go ahead and get out, lock in that profit, and then look for another entry. And sometimes that is so hard to do because, you want to stay in and try to get as much as you can, right? Well, you're giving up a little bit of your profit, if not a lot of your profit, in your candles are showing you that it did switch directions and your MACD crossed, right? The MACD cross, so your candles moved to the upside of the 5 EMA and your MACD cross, so that was a signal for us to, be mindful of the downside move, right? So that's something to think about. And then we start moving a little bit sideways, some slight inclines, but I wouldn't have traded this portion of it at all. So I would have, let me say that, towards the end of the day, we had a signal. It broke out of this area right here. 3 lower lows. MACD has given me a signal that it's fanned out. It's not as close or gathered or bunched together as this here. So I have 2 or 3 confirmations that's okay to enter this to the downside. I would have found my entry and rode this to the down right here. It's under the 5 EMA, and that's another example of ride the 5. You're in the trade what you see. Find places that you can enter your trades. But yeah, there's a lot of places today in the market where we could have just gotten in. And we had to be a little patient with it. Let me say that. And patience is key. If nothing else, the market is going to teach you, and that's patience. If not, you're going to lose a lot. Let me say that. If you're not a patient person, it will definitely teach you patience, because sometimes you have to get in at the right time and out at the right time. You have to be patient on those moves, right? So we looked at AMD, we looked at NVIDIA, we looked at Tesla, and we looked at the SPY. So my concern for tomorrow is, I trade Tesla daily. Is Tesla going to fill this gap to the downside tomorrow, or are we going to continue back to the upside, because there is an upside gap that needs to be filled also, right? That's just something to think about. Y'all always trade what you see. We can make look at the charts and see what the charts are showing us, and anything could change at any given time. I say that often. Things will change at any given time. So we have to be prepared and out trade what you see. So y'all, we do these videos every day so that we can learn and we can grow together. Even though we do a pre-market prep, we still try to do, find places that we can learn and learn how to, figure out how we can come up with our strategy, right? We can show you all kinds of ways. These people, different people, they can show you all kinds of ways or all different techniques and styles. And the most important thing is to come up with your own way of trading, what works best for you. So you can take a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and then you come up with your own strategy. So again, I hope this video is helpful in helping you develop your strategy for trading. I am super, super excited. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And yeah, y'all, we learn and we grow together. And yeah, thank you so much again. I'm super, super excited. I say that all the time because, yeah, until next time, y'all. I keep saying that, yeah. Until next time, y'all, I like to leave you with this. Be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.